He had played with this toddler every single day for 2 years. That Tuesday, he played differently. The boy's parents thought the dog had finally lost his gentleness. They had it exactly backwards. The sound of a 2-year-old laughing and a golden retriever playing is one of those sounds that becomes background after long enough. Cora Whitfield had stopped consciously registering it about 6 months into Theo's life, the way you stop registering the refrigerator or the traffic outside. It was ambient. It was safe. It was exactly the same every day. Then, on a Tuesday in March, it changed in a way she heard immediately. Not because she was listening, but because the pattern broke, and the brain registers broken patterns before it registers anything deliberate. Buddy, their 5-year-old Golden, had pinned Theo to the living room floor. Theo was 26 months old, and he was under 72 pounds of amber-furred dog who would not get off him. Not playing, not rolling, pressed. Buddy's chest against Theo's chest. Buddy's nose at Theo's mouth. Theo's arms pushing and going nowhere. Cora was in the kitchen, and she came to the doorway and said Buddy's name sharply, and he lifted his head and looked at her and lowered it again. She crossed the room and pulled him off by the collar. He went, but he circled immediately and came back. She stepped between them. Buddy pressed his nose against her leg in the direction of Theo. She had owned this dog for 5 years. She had never had to physically remove him from anything involving Theo. She made a call to her husband Garrett, who was 20 minutes away, and told him what had happened. He said what he knew about dogs. Some dogs got territorial with children as they grew bigger and started pushing back. Maybe Buddy was reacting. This was the kind of thing you could see in dogs who had always had dominance. Cora said Buddy had never been dominant. Garrett said maybe it was changing. He agreed to come home early. He agreed it was something to watch. If you stay for stories about what animals sense before we do, you are in the right place. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Buddy did it again at 4 p.m. Theo was on the floor with his blocks, and Buddy crossed from the couch, lowered his body over the boy, chest on chest, and stayed. Theo started crying. Cora separated them again. This time she put Buddy in the back bedroom with the door latched. He scratched at it for an hour. By 5:30, she noticed Theo was quiet in the way children get quiet when something isn't right, sitting instead of moving, pulling at his shirt collar, breathing with a visible effort she hadn't seen before. His lips looked wrong. Not dramatically wrong, a shade wrong. The specific shade of not enough. She called their pediatrician after-hours line. The nurse told her to watch the breathing effort and come in if it didn't improve. Cora watched. It didn't improve. By 6:15, Theo's breathing had visible retractions between his ribs. With each inhale, she put him in the car and drove to the children's emergency department without waiting for Garrett to arrive. In the emergency department, a respiratory therapist named Andre Okonma spent 12 minutes with Theo before he told Cora what she already suspected, but had not let herself say. Theo was in his first asthma attack. Silent wheezing. The bronchospasm was severe enough that the wheeze was inaudible without a stethoscope. The airways were narrowing. The work of breathing against that resistance was significant enough that, without intervention, a child Theo's size and age would begin to fatigue within a specific window of time. He said the phrase 20 minutes and explained what 20 minutes meant in a specific clinical context, and left the rest unsaid. Has your dog ever done something that seemed aggressive until you understood what he was actually responding to? Tell us in the comments. These stories deserve to be heard. She asked him why Buddy might have done what he did. She asked it quietly, half expecting him to redirect her. He didn't. He said that during bronchospasm, the chemical composition of exhaled breath changes. Nitric oxide levels in the airways of a child entering an asthma attack rise significantly. The increase is detectable by trained medical instruments. He paused. He said dogs operate with olfactory sensitivity that exceeds medical instrumentation in certain chemical profiles. He said Buddy would have been smelling Theo's exhaled air every time he pressed his nose to the boy's face. He said he wasn't in a position to tell her what that meant definitively, but he was in a position to note that Theo's lungs had been changing for at least several hours before the visible symptoms presented. He said the dog started responding around 2 p.m. based on what she had told him. She sat in the family room at the children's hospital and thought about 2 p.m. She thought about Buddy pressed on Theo's chest, nose at his face. She thought about pulling him off by the collar. She thought about the bedroom door and the scratching, and the hours she had spent managing a dog she thought had become dangerous while her son's airways were closing. She thought about the sound of that scratching and what it had been trying to say. Every guardian deserves to be recognized, even the ones who never asked for anything in return. Subscribe so you never miss the next one. Theo spent one night in the hospital. He came home with a rescue inhaler and a follow-up appointment and a diagnosis that changed how his family understood the sound he'd been making when he breathed for the previous several hours. The night they came home, Buddy was released from the bedroom, where Garrett had found him still pressed against a door. He walked directly to Theo, lowered his head to the boy's level, and pressed his nose gently to Theo's mouth and inhaled once, slow and measured. Then he sat back and looked at Cora. She had no clinical explanation for what that meant. She had a feeling that felt more certain than any explanation.